This
Please.
conference will now be recorded.
So we can add few more points to the yesterday's constructors thing. So that is, of course, the concept is almost same. I was talking about parameterized and default constructors, and I would like to add few more, points to that discussion what we have done yesterday. Because somewhere I think yesterday I lost the track because I am very much tired yesterday. But still, it's fine because sometimes it happens. When you have a work there. So let me again add few more points and make sure that this concept is perfectly all right. Okay? That's what we are going to do now. Hope that is fine for all of you, right? But other things are fine. So whatever we have discussed is okay. That's not going to be any problem to us. Okay. So first thing is, as discussed, these are a couple of things. These are fine. Okay. Constructor is it's a method which has same name as class name. But one thing is might be as per the documentation. One thing what I just want to remove here is it's not special method here. So let me remove this. Other than that, everything is fine. Okay, is a method which has same name as class name. That is one thing. Method in sense we declare it separately, but here the point is your constructors declared with the class definition itself. Both are mixed together. We don't have a separate method like in Java or C Sharp or C++ or Scala. Or in Python even. Okay, so constructor has same name as class name. That is one thing. Even you can remove method also. Class name. That is one thing. Next one. This is fine. It is used to initialize instance variables, and this is also fine. Okay. So it doesn't have a return type, and it is called automatic. All these are same. Might be instead of saying that it has a special method, because method means we declare it separately. But in Scala, constructor is also part of your class name itself. It is inbuilt with class itself. So that is one thing. Of course, we can declare it separately also. We'll talk on that point by point now. That is one thing. Second thing, we have discussed few things, right? Suppose, let me open Scala, this thing. This is a conceptual discussion. Might be you need to understand this concept. We don't have too much of implementation here. So because the implementation or logic comes with all the functional programming. Here, it's more of understanding how these concepts work. Again, once again, we apply that somewhere where exactly it is useful to us. And I will give some use cases which are really useful in the code. Now, I'm going to show you a couple of important things here, point by point. Okay. Meanwhile, let me talk about a couple of things here. This point is clear, correct? If you don't declare any constructor in a class, then the compiler will add one default constructor. This is perfectly correct, not totally. But when you talk about constructors in Scala, so yesterday I lost the track of these things. So let me add them here. Constructor, we have here constructor types. One thing, default and parameterized file. Again, among them, there are two types of constructors. One is a primary constructor. That's what we call in Scala. Primary constructor. The second one is we call it as a auxiliary or secondary constructor. You can call this as secondary or auxiliary constructor. Okay. So that is one more thing. Got it right? Now, when you talk about primary constructor, okay, what is it now? And what is secondary constructor? Let's have a detailed analysis. Suppose you look at this code now. I'll just directly explain with a small piece of logic here. Okay. Let me explain with direct with code, because these are all simple things. Just observe, and if you have doubts, you can ask me. Don't hesitate. Okay. I'm using the same code. Here, I'm just taking a simple code to make you understand this primary and secondary constructors. Okay. I'm not taking something too complex examples. Something like class, I just take it as some. Okay. Okay. So in this, we had discussed methods, all that. There are few points I'm going to add. Now, in this program, observe this. I'm declaring some variable, some a equal to a colon int equal to some time. Okay, this is directly in the class. Observe this carefully. I didn't declare it anywhere. It's directly in the class. What do you call this variable as per yesterday's discussion? You can call this as instance variables. Means these are part of object. We had that postmortem yesterday. So that's one thing. Now, I'm directly printing it here itself. Something like this. I didn't use any method to print it. Can you observe this? I'm not using any method to print it. Okay, so that is fine, no issues. Now, the surprising thing is you go to the main, create an object for that class A equal to some new A. That is one thing. That's all. You don't need to do anything now. Now, in this case, I have a question to all of you. So here I am using direct print statements in the class itself. I didn't use any method. And then I declared the variable. Okay. So there are two things which I have done. And I didn't use any methods. And then I am creating an object. There are no methods to call for me. Now, when I run this code, tell me whether this code will run or not. Tell me. And question two. Second question to all of you. So one question is whether code runs or not. Code runs or not. That is question one. Second question, are there any methods? Are there any methods in the code? Okay, these are the two questions which I would like to ask you. So, okay, give me answers. Give me answers for this. I didn't use any method. One thing keep in mind. So, without having any method, your program doesn't run. Means when you do like this, you are using a printer. Means this print has to be in some method. Variables you can declare directly inside a class. We don't have issue with that. But I don't have a method, but I put a print there. This is not possible directly to declare in the class code. We have to keep that in a method. So now the question is this is my program. Okay. Now you tell me, can I run this code or not? Are you following this?
Yeah.
Can you give me an answer? Yes, no? Because I need some.
Yeah, Manohar,
Yeah,
there we are using the default constructor.
correct. Perfect. So here, that's what. Yesterday also we had a discussion on this, but I didn't completely talk about that default. Point one, if you don't declare any constructor in a class, then the point is what? By default, a default constructor exists inside this class. That is called primary default constructor. Actually, I just told you now. In Scala, we can classify constructors into two types: primary and secondary or auxiliary. By default, we have primary constructor. whatever we declare with class, which is part of a class itself, if constructor is part of class name itself, such constructor we call it as primary constructor. Now in this program, you might think that there is no constructor, but still there is a constructor. Whatever statements you declared in this class, all that statements goes into that primary default constructor. There is one default constructor. Every statement you declared inside this constructor, independent statements, not the method. Suppose if I declare a method like this, something like m1, okay, and then if I print something, this method doesn't go into constructor because one method is not declared into another method. But other than method, suppose I just say hi here, leave about other things. Apart from these methods, any other statements like this independent statements like variables or prints, or see, even I can write a logic here. The surprising thing here is you see this, observe carefully. So I just say something like AB, then I can say where some C colon int equal to A plus B, and then I can print this. If you do the same, it will give left and right. If you do the same in C++, it will give left and right. If you go to C# and do this, it will give left and right. Of course, you can declare variables in the class code, but this logic and then this prints, this is not generally we do in the class code. But now, I even if you see, I almost declare variables. I implemented a business logic and then I printed something here. Means I declared everything here. Now you might have a doubt here whether this code is going to work or not. That might be your doubt. What's your answer now? Do you think this code will work? Without anything, without any second thought. Now right click, then run as Scala application. You got 20 there. Can you see that? You got output, guys. Means what? We have a method here. What is that? It is a default constructor. What default constructor? Primary default constructor. What what constructor? A primary default constructor. You understand this point? Means all this code goes into the constructor. It's like this, to be more clear for you. It's like declaring a method like this in a class. Like it's something like this. Just for your understanding, I'm showing you this. It's like declaring a method with class name that have a body, and declaring everything in that. It's something like that. But what is that? That is directly attached to the class name itself. That's what we call primary constructor in Scala. So this is this kind of approach is implemented in Java or in C++ or C#, but not in Scala. For Scala, your primary constructor will be part of a class name itself. You don't need to separately declare a primary constructor name here, like in other languages. And you got output, right? You can see that very crystal clear. The sum is something like you can just say plus C, and you can run this. When you run this, you get a perfect output here. You get this? Will you agree with this now? Rajesh is correct actually. Perfect, Rajesh. And this kind of when you don't think that there is no constructor, we have a constructor. What kind of constructor we have here? Primary default constructor. Okay, one thing, other point. Whatever you declare, any other statements other than methods you declare in a class code, it goes into a primary default constructor. If you don't declare any constructor yourself, you got it right. This point should be also very clear to you now. So that's it. So you can just test this code, sir, all of you. First test it. I will keep adding few more points. Sir. Okay. So couple of points is what is a primary constructor? How do you define it? A primary constructor is a constructor, okay, which is directly declared with the class name. With the class declaration, instead of saying class name, with the class declaration. By default, which construct exists? By default, if we don't declare any constructor, what happens? We have a primary default constructor. And next point, all the statements, another important point, all the statements which we declare in a class. Statements in sense what? Variables, prints, logic, anything else other than methods. All this goes into what? All the statements which we declare in a class goes into, what is that, guys? Primary default constructor. Understood now? Do you get this? Is this points clear to all of you now? Next one. Okay, you can test this code, all of you test it once, just for your understanding. So this is what, and one more thing, how this primary default constructor is called, because you can also add something like this, maybe for more clarity, you can add some parentheses. Here a class with parentheses, this looks like a method. This is called primary default, no parameters in that. If any method don't have parameters, including constructor, even constructors is like a method only. It's a default method. Even if you run this, you get the same output. You can also declare like this for for better readability. You can add like this. Now what happens? How when this is called? When you create an object, this is a constructor calling. Can you see this now? When this is executed, automatically this will invoke this default constructor, and all the code in the class gets executed. These variables, okay, this statements, all that gets executed. Okay. You get that point now? Yes or no? Okay. Just test it. All of you test it. Then we'll talk about primary parameterized constructors. Then we get more idea. Okay. Just confirm if you are tested. Once it is tested, just confirm it. Okay, next one. Topic 2. You got it right? Huh? Primary parameterized constructor. So you got an idea, right? What is a primary constructor? A constructor which is declared with the class definition itself. That's called as primary constructor. Do you understand that? Okay. Now, I'm just giving you a small requirement. I'm taking out this. And the variables I'm setting to them to null. You can take the same example, no issues. Remove this. Even you can set C as null, or otherwise you can leave it like that, no issues. These are instance variables. I'm sorry. The defaults are here what? Not null. 0. Okay. So now, to initialize this instance variables, I want this constructor. You know, right? What is the purpose of constructor? Constructor is used to initialize instance variables of a class. I have mentioned this yesterday, and today also I'm repeating the same statement. So you got it right. It is used to initialize instance variables of a class. Now, we have observed in the last session how to initialize instance variables through method. But now, by using constructor, by passing values through constructor, I want to initialize instance variables of a class. Got it right? And how do you do that? How many variables should I initialize here? I should initialize 2 variables, not 3. Here we should initialize 2. A and B, because C is a resultant variable. I don't need to initialize that. It's not necessary for me. But what should I initialize? I should initialize A and B. Means how do I declare a primary parameterized constructor? It has to declare with class name itself. And I think yesterday I told you the syntax. What is that syntax? It look like this. Okay. It's something like, okay, if it is not there, I'll show you here. Class, something like that. Okay. So class name in open parenthesis, and then just declare variable some var1 colon data type A, comma, same story continues, colon data type, comma, dot. Okay, close it, and then open body, then statements. And you declare your instance variables and you do the initialization code. That how you do is your wish. But this is how we declare a primary parameter. Primary constructor is inbuilt with class name itself. Is this clear? Is this clear? You have to respond, sir, because this class is targeted for you only. Do you understand this? Okay, only Suresh and Srikanth are following. What about others, sir? Okay. Okay. Fine. Now, this is syntax. This is the syntax. Okay. Now, say this. Fine. Are you good with this now? Now, how do you write a code for this? Any idea? First, go to the class. I need to initialize 2 instance variables at this point. With class name itself, declare a method with 2 variables, something like A colon int, comma B colon int. This is a bit confusing to us. Our local, these are parameters, sir. Parameters means which are part of method. This can be called as local, otherwise local variables. I taught this in methods topic. If you declare variables with method or inside method, they becomes local. Okay, and this becomes local. Now our local variables are same. Local variable names and instance variable names means which is something part of class or object. Instance variable names are same. Now what I do is, for better readability, I take one more method, something like set data Okay, it's a default. We don't need any parameters. Now it doesn't return anything, unit and a body. Now I am saying A equal to A and then B equal to B here. This is how we should initialize. But when I do that, that's what I just mentioned. In this case, my local variables and instance variables are same, and I try to initialize like this. But immediately my compiler is throwing an error. Then what should I do now? So to make sure that to differentiate between instance and local, we use some keyword called this keyword. What keyword? We use something called this. Wherever we apply this, those variables are instance variables. They are part of object. How do I apply it? Something like this dot. Here also, what do I do? Escape this. And I say this dot and save it. Okay. One minute, let me see what is the error. Ambiguous reference overloaded. Definition, both variable in class. When I do this with method, it worked. Okay. 1 minute, guys. Just observe. These scenarios are useful to you also. So when you do this, now it's not throwing any error. But if we apply the same with constructor, can you see this now? This will work. This code will work pretty well because I tested this. Okay. So just observe, because this is a scenario where you can get. This is one scenario. You might get some idea from this. So when you test this code, this will perfectly work. See here now, a dot some set data of some 1, 2, a dot some get data. When I run this, this will work. Now here, if you see, this local variables are parameters, and then instance variables, both are same. And I am just different. When I remove this, see here now, I'm removing this. Now I have an error, right? Suppose if I put this here, this dot, this can be applied in Scala also. Okay, this dot. So what this is doing, now error is removed. When I run this, I get an output, perfect output. It will print. I have 1 and 2 here. Can you see this now? So means this is allowed. Point 1. If in a method, if you see, if my parameters and instance variables are same, if parameter names are instance variables are same, to differentiate instance from parameters, this method parameters are local variables, I can use this. When do we use this? This is used to declare with the instance variables, variables of a object or variables of class. Now I don't have an issue, I don't have an error here. Okay, this is one thing. Remember, is this one point I would like to tell to all of you is this can be used in Scala inside a method. The purpose is clear. What is that? It will differentiate instance variables from local variables. So you can treat them as local here because these are local, part of method or inside method or part of parameters. All these are local. So this works. What works? This works. But if I rewrite this program with this, now look at this. The same thing. I'm rewriting with the which one? Copy, remove this now. I'm making it to adding it to the parameterized constructor. Okay, one thing. Second thing, I'm using set data. And if I write the same code here, suppose I use a primary constructor here. My primary constructor have same arguments the arguments names are parameters are having same name as what is that class name, but I am finding an error here. So here I'll do one thing then. If that is not allowed, change the variable names here. Okay, put this. Now you don't need this here anyhow, but still you don't need this. What you have to do right now? X and Y. Now I don't have any error. Means there is one important point we have to observe here when we talk about primary constructors. When you have a primary constructor, so when the primary constructor variable names and this instance variable names are same, then what's happening here? We are getting what? An error when you are initializing it in a method. To avoid that, what we have done now, I just changed the variables names. Is that point clear to all of you now? And is it allowed to have this local variables names and instance variables names to be same or different? Is it allowed to have same or not? What's your answer now? Can I have local variables names and instance variables names to be same or different? Sorry, can I have same? Is it possible or not? Only Srikanth is answering. Might be others don't want. When it's possible, answer this question. See, if you are interactive, I can come up with more this thing. If you just listen to it like if you are in a passive mode, not active mode. What do you say, guys? When it is allowed, when my local variables and instance variables can be same and can be initialized, when it's not possible. What are the cases? Two cases. Answer. When should we use this keyword? When, in which case? When you use a primary constructor or when you use a method? This can be applied anytime, no issues. This can be applied. This is used to point to the instance variables of a class. Suppose if I have a primary parameterized constructor, it has some parameters. And now, can I have this variable names same as my instance variable names? Is it a good idea? Yes or no? Somebody is saying yes, somebody is saying no, and somebody is not at all saying anything. Okay, guys, what do you say now? Is it allowed or not? If my primary constructor parameters and my instance variable names are same, is it allowed? If you don't want to answer, no problem, sir. At least type in chat. Okay. So you didn't listen to my question now. Can I have my parameter names of primary constructor and instance variable names to be same? Is that allowed? That is my question. Most of you are saying allowed. Maybe if it is possible, you tell me, because when I use like this, suppose I say some A and A, and I'm trying to, when I do this, immediately I got an error here. Can you see this now? Okay, not A, sorry, B. Sorry, B. So, is it allowed or not? Then I'm getting here error here. Manoj, could you tell me like when it is possible then? If you are saying yes, how is it possible? when I'm initializing, when I say a equal to a, b
Yeah,
equal to,
bro, it is possible when we use this keyword within that constructor, not in out of that constructor.
yeah, that's fine. But if I am initializing like this within a method, is this possible? No, we have to understand all the cases. So you are saying one thing. One thing is this one. What is that? Might be your answer should be this. You say a equal to a, one thing, b equal to b, one thing, and then now you are saying that let me just say this dot a, then this dot a. Is that what you are saying now,
No, no,
Madhu?
no. There itself we can do that. Where this dot A, where this dot B. The first
Oh,
initialization.
yeah. Can you?
Where. The first initialization, zeros we have initialized over there, right?
Okay, okay. You are saying you can set this to this.
This where this dot A.
Okay. You can you type in the chart because I just want to know that
Yeah, there.
scenario.
No, 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 not there, not there.
You mean you are saying while declaring this?
Yes, exactly.
Okay. So this is one case. Okay, fine. But when you directly go with the method, what's happening? This is one case. You can take this, all of you. Can you see this now? This is one use case. Thanks for getting this, Madhu. So you know what is this here? When should we use this? That is one thing. Second thing, the cases. There are two cases now again. When you are trying to initialize instance variables, what are those two cases? Case one, it's good. Okay. Case one, initializing parameters of primary constructor to instance variables, and where we are doing this initialization, one thing. Okay, somebody had this is in class scope. Which scope? In which scope is this? In the class scope itself, or you can also consider this as what this by default these are part of what class level. Got it right? That is one thing. So case one is that in class scope, and that too, what is that? The important thing is remove this keyword. Now, do I have an error immediately? So I told clearly when this is applicable with instance variables. When you say this dot something means it is treated as instance variable. You got that point, right? So when I say this dot a, then there is no ambiguity. Otherwise, still the ambiguity exists. So we are directly doing this use case in this parameterized constructor, that too in the class scope. Do you get this point, right? All of you are clear? Right, that is one thing. Okay, Manoj, you said no, that's fine. But Madhu has given us one more, no, another workaround here. That's really useful here because this I don't have an idea about this. Let me be honest. So, and I came to know something new today. That's really wonderful. So that is one thing. So this is case one. Got it right? Initializing parameters of primary constructor to instance variables in class code. That is one thing. So that is this example. This is I really this is wonderful. Now what you can do now after this, you can carry out. You can take a method now. Methods, using methods is good. Some def, some add, colon. You can just return this result. Okay, then you can just say some c equal to a plus b. Now, which variable come here? The instance or the local? I mean, the parameter of a primary constructor, or when I say c equal to a plus b. Again, I am getting an error. Okay, so okay, that is this. Let me save it. Still I am seeing an error. That is also okay. Let me fix it. What is my issue? Type mismatch found. Unit required. Okay, why? Just say see here. So this is fine now. Now which values are substituted here? Is it this one or is it this one? Which values get substituted? We get instance or local. These are
Instance values.
okay. But now I cannot differentiate because you initialize same values of primary constructor to this instance variable. So this is a little deeper analysis. Okay, only when you are working in some project, this kind of analysis is much more useful. The basic Amirpet syntaxes will be very easy, but you know the problem is you get stumbled when you are working in a project. So that is fine, but I will do an R&D for that. What kind of variables we get here? Do we get that instance or do we directly get a local? We can test it now. Okay, that's not an issue. We can do a workaround. I'll prove with everything. So we have a way for everything, sir. So finally, what I'm doing is right now are you okay with till this level? I don't need get data now, not necessary for me because I am doing addition and returning my result. I have instance variables. I initialized with this primary parameterized constructor. Through the parameters of primary constructor, I initialize these instance variables. And this is my resultant variable, which is used to set result. Now I return my result back. Okay, fine. Now going to the main, there is an error here. If your constructor is parameterized, and you know how many parameters are there here, this is very important. All of you follow this. This is very important, sir. What kind of constructor is this, sir? Parameterized. So at this object, you know, how do you call this parameterized constructor? How do you call, sir? I call this by through object. Through object. These constructors are called through object. That too with this. This is actually the constructor calling. But when you look at it, this is not the actual caller I should use. This is a call to the default constructor. But in this program, I don't have any default constructor. Then what do I have here? I have a parameterized constructor. Then what should I do here? It's same like method only. See, if a method is parameterized, you call it by passing parameters, right? So similarly, if a method is constructor is parameterized, we should call that parameterized by passing parameters through this object. Through this object. So how many should I pass? I should pass two values. Just pass 1, 2. But we don't have get data. Then what do you do now? So when you pass parameters through this calling, this will first object gets created. At the time of creating object, constructors get called automatically. Then the control switch to this point, and this 1 is A and 2 is copied to B, and that whatever the 1 is there here, that is initialized to this variable. What is 2 is there in this B, that is initialized to this variable. But still, even now, I am not sure what is coming to this logic. The instance variables are coming to this, or the local variables, or the parameters of this, which one primary constructor are coming here. That I should check once. So I will prove that. We'll do a quick work around for that. But now I am calling this add function. That returns some result for me. Some x equal to this. Finally, what I do is just say println of x here. That's my sum. But still, there is a little workaround has to be done here to get a deeper idea about this thing. That is perfect. I got 3. But still, what are these variables? Are these the instance, or are these the parameters of this primary constructor? We should understand this. How do you just recognize that? You just do one thing. Here, leave it like that. Set them to 10 and 20. You directly initialize these instance variables. Don't initialize this local. Now, when you run this code, if you are getting 30 here, if your output is 30, then these variables are no doubt, these are instance. Suppose if you get your output as 3, these are coming from the parameters of primary constructor. Do you understand that? Is that clear? Is that clear, guys? Any answer, guys? A free session means you should not talk or what? I don't understand. You know, I have a session at 11:30 to 12:30. they pay at least okay 20,000 per each person, the Python thing, and everybody talks in the class. I don't know, in free session nobody is talking. Means I should charge for all of you then. I'm just kidding, Suresh. Don't take it serious. Okay. So now, 1 minute. There is an error. Is it something because of? So I will also do one thing. Let me remove. If I remove, we get. Let me try this. We get an error. Again, we have an error here. So either here we have to use this again. Okay. This is perfectly fine. I am calling add. That is also fine. Now let us run this code now. Okay. Still, I have a way for this. Okay. Stuff it is giving me an error saying that let us just check the error. See, these are all workarounds. You might feel little why this fellow is doing all this. Scala.match error, java.lang.integer, and it's showing error with 10. And here it is showing an error. Okay. Exception line 4. Okay. Then we do one more thing. Leave it like this. You can say this dot. This is okay, fine, but still I am not expecting this now. This dot a plus this dot b. What is the error? Ambiguous reference. Okay, got it. So when I initialize a, that's the issue. Let me stop doing addition now. Let me stop returning value just for testing purpose. Println of a, then println of, even now it's throwing an error. So this is not going to help us. Huh? Okay, now I think at least the error is removed now. Let me try this, run this. Okay, I'm just having a here, cross checking all this. Which a is going to get printed, whether this one or whether this instance. No, I am little adamant on this because need to know all this kind of. That's what. Again, I got an error. Means this kind of approach is not allowed. Only thing is, see, one thing is, Madhu, why I'm doing this is, I can directly use this parameters. Say what is that is when you say var sub c colon int equal to some 0, it's c equal to a plus b, and then I can return that c. This will work for me. Okay, I don't need again instance variables and to initialize them. Okay, and one more thing is put the return type here and right click. I can do like this. You know why I'm doing a workaround here for you is I can do this. I don't need instance variables. But now, in the previous example, in this case, when I go with this, okay, this is fine. We are assuming that the values coming here are what is that A and B, no doubt. But which A is this? Is that the parameters or is this the instance variables? That's what no point is. But
In that case, I think this is the variable and
this
x
is
is the
pointing to
reference
yeah,
variable, and both
yeah,
these variable holds that address of the object. If you print
yeah.
these two, then if it prints the same address, then we can get that
Correct.
idea, right?
See, point is when I this automatically represents this is also an implicit reference. Got it right? So when you talk about this, you see here now. Let me just show you. So you print this, and here also you print this. You print this reference here. So first, actually, it starts here. Object is created at this statement. Once object is created here, the same reference is used throughout your file or throughout your application. Means what? This is nothing but it is an implicit reference. What reference? Internal reference to the existing object. This object. Do you understand that, Madhu? Suppose
Yeah.
right click. Anyhow, for now, what I have done is we'll come to this again. You look at this. When I do this, okay, this is fine to me. When I say run as Scala application, let us see what do we get now. Okay, I got 3 and the references are same here. Can you see that, all of you? Can you observe that? What is this here? When I print this, this is a print here A, or when I print this, both of them are showing the same object. Can you see this now? The address is same for both. Means what? Don't think this is something something different here. This is nothing but it is also a reference like A here. You know, you are pointing A to this, right? But A is external reference. This is internal reference. Means what this does is this is used to point to the it points to the internal, it points to the object of a class implicitly. What it points at? It points to the object of a class implicitly. That's what this is. That's called internal reference. Got it? Is that point clear to all of you? Okay, fine. Here I have done addition by applying this here. Okay, now I am doing addition of instance variables, but still one last check I'll do and then switch the topic. 10, 20. Okay, this time I don't see the error. By God's grace, if it's not throwing any error, let me just run this and see if we are successful. But okay, but when I remove this, now that is the challenge here. When you are not initializing this and directly applying, we are seeing some error. So point is, what's happening here? It is expecting this when variable names are same. What's happening? It is expecting them to be used or initialized somewhere here. Otherwise, it's throwing an error. Suppose if variable names are different, we don't have an issue. I'm only checking when it is same. So now I can have X, I can have Y. Okay. And then leave about this. This time we get A plus B. Now this should give some idea to all of us now. Can you see this now? Leave about this part. This is just only address of the same object here, and you don't need to print this as well. Now when I do this, Madhu, this should give some clarity for us. What is that it is giving us now? When I said this dot A equal to X, this dot B equal to Y, then we are doing this. What's happening now? It's throwing an error. Okay, let's just value is not member of A. Okay, then what's remove this here. Here also remove this. Let's try in this way. Okay, now run this code. Let us see what is that we are going to get now. Based on this, at least we get some conclusion. We get 3 here. So probably when we have different arguments, then when I do addition, so probably as Madhu says, this should be instance variables only, not local parameters. Otherwise, they are not part of a primary constructor. I think this is clear, right? This, and you know why we have an error if I apply this here? Again, you see one more question to you. You should ask me this question, but you didn't ask me this. So I am only asking questions and I am only giving answers. When I give like, I get an error now. Earlier, I don't have an error, but this time it is throwing an error. Why?
This is used only if there is a ambiguity in variables. I mean, that using of those variables. Because here there is no ambiguity. So that is
Exactly.
what this should not be used.
Perfect. You have to understand. So when should we apply this with instance here? When there is ambiguity issue, you should apply this keyword. And here there is no ambiguity between that which parameters, primary constructor parameters and this instance variable. So it is not asking for this. Understood? Now when I run this, I get perfect output. Now you can test this code, sir. All of you can test it. Only point is when they are same, I have done some work around what values will come to this logic, whether the values of instance or whether the values of this primary parameters, constructor parameters directly. But point is, I am thinking the values of this instance variables will be called more than this. Okay, but anyhow, I will check and update on this in the next session. Still, even though let us keep it as a open this thing, open topic. I will update this too. But you can test till this level. At this case, we don't have any ambiguity. We have a primary constructor parameters, and we are initializing them to instance variables and applying some logic. These are also instance, no doubt about that. Okay, and other things are perfectly all right. Everything is in place now. The only point comes to the question is when we have same parameters, when the instance variables and the primary constructor parameters are same, then that is where we need to. Okay. Got it? So test this code, sir, all of you. Take some time and you can test it. So that's idea. See, understanding primary constructor is not something it will take time. But when you go to the deeper into that digging of that. So this is case one. Instance variables, initializing instance variables in the class code. That is one thing. And we can do the same with the method also. Okay. Test it once, sir. Yeah, guys, I think you got it right. So there is still a little open item here about that this thing. When you above, of course, when both are same, which are coming, that I will test and update you. Okay. But the concept is this: when you talk about primary constructors, now we got a perfect idea. The default primary and parameterized primary constructors. Usually, these primary constructors are built with class name itself, and they are used to initialize these instance variables. No doubt about that. And then these constructors are called when object is created, and constructor calling is part of object itself. It's not something, we don't have any additional calling for constructor. Keep this in mind. And we have done some R&D here. Actually, it's actually a beautiful session what I feel today. Thanks for Madhu for his inputs, and also others who has given the inputs on this. Okay, guys. So that's about primary. Then how about secondary? That we see in tomorrow's session. Already it's 9:30. Sorry, 10:30. So you take a break, and still my work is not done. Okay, so I have to send my mails all that. So others are fine now. Suresh, are you clear now? Any questions? Because if you are clear, then everybody will be clear. As you told, you are very new to the scalar. So is that constructor clear now? Perfect. Okay, right. Anybody else has questions now? Apart from that, same whether what is coming to this, that I will do a workaround on this and update you. You don't need that much, but still, we are going into that level. That's all. Got it? Okay. Shall we stop here then? Tomorrow I'll talk about secondary. That is also very useful. And then I talk about constructor overloading. That will close the discussion of constructors. There is one more important update to all of you, sir. Here in Scala, we don't have any static keyword or static variables and static methods like in Java or like in C++ or C#. Okay, but the same concept we can implement with something called this object construct, whichever we are using here. So we can simulate that with this object. We'll talk about it. Once I finish constructors, then a similar kind of that static concept I will correlate and tell you that how static works in Scala, static variables and static methods. Okay, got it right? So that's it, guys, from my end today. What about others? All of you are fine, right? Okay, thank you. Can you upload the remaining Python and BigData videos in YouTube? Sure, Manoj, I will do that. I asked for a 1 minute video bite. Okay, every day I am asking.